Good morning. I'm Dr. Sunanda Samadar Corrado, co-hosting the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford, coming to you live at 10 o'clock every Thursday morning on Wjzz Cool TV, streaming to you on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public School superintendent, a former world-class athlete, and conqueror of world Olympic champions. A championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, longtime civil rights crusader, and the author of 6 Detroit-oriented books. The Poet Emperor of Earth, What Old Men Know, Creative Insubordination, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run, and another forthcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Appleboughs, a Detroit poetic epic. He also has a show on WCHB AM 1340, Detroit's gospel station, Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. That's Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. His books are available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, or just calling the Good Doctor at 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. John Telford has been called a legend and a lightning rod for controversy. He has received the Detroit City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year in 2001, and a Detroit track was named for him. His website is www.alifeontherun.com, and his email is drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. That's drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. Now, without further ado, I present to you that crusading old native Detroiter, Dr. John Telford. Woo.
Thank you, Dr. Sunanda Corrado, that PhD from Columbia University, who is an anthropologist by training.
Yes.
Dr. Corrado has been teaching at Wayne County Community College for this past 10 years. Looks like she's 17, but she's been teaching there that long.
Go on. I'm short.
Yeah, she's currently a researcher for the Detroit Equity Action Lab, which is housed in the Wayne State University Law School.
Thanks to you, Dr. Telford.
Well, I try to keep my finger in a lot of pies.
You sure do.
And Sunanda is founder and CEO of Education by Design. We have in the studio today a
presidential candidate.
A
Look
presidential
out.
Candidate, a young gentleman named Tree Buddha, and he's running for president of the USA. And we're going to be talking about not only his presidential run, but about the fact that he has written a children's poetry book.
And look for his baseball cap. It's going to be coming out. Make America constitutional again.
Amen.
I love it. I love that platform.
Amen to that. I have some announcements before we interview Tree. I call you Tree. Tree Buddha.
Tree.
Very,
very tree.
Just leave it alone.
Okay. Anyway, I was unhappily attending a funeral the other day, and the funeral was for the sister of my friend Reverend Horace Sheffield. And after that funeral, I wrote Horace this email, and I copied Reverend Wendell Anthony on the email, and my friend Kenyatta Wilborn Snap on the email, and my friend Caesar Mickens on the email, and my friend Reverend Nick Hood on the email, and also my second wife Gina Telford on the email, because this is what I said in that email. Horace, we've been friends for a long time, and we've been on each other's shows and everything, but I think yesterday at Levon's homecoming, it was the day before yesterday, was the first time I ever actually heard you preach. And you did her proud. You did Levon proud, Horace. So did Reverend Wendell Anthony. And friends Kathy Sheffield, that was Lavon's sister, Kenyatta Wilborn Snap, and Caesar Mickens. Lavon has been my close friend, with whom I've been in constant contact since we were Detroit Public Schools administrative colleagues in the year 2002 in the Burnley administration. Lavon was, she was just a great lady. Lavon and Kathy visited us in the home where my MS-riddled third wife Adrian had asked me to put her in Kego Harbor.
It was a beautiful place.
Yeah, to be near her daughter when I eventually passed, me being then 84 years old, to her 76, but tragically and ironically, on January the 7th, 2021, my beloved Adrian passed before me from cancer. A real scourge. I was pleased to note Nick Hood's name listed as an honorary pallbearer on the memorial brochure. Nick was once my second wife Gina Telford's pastor, and Lavon and Gina were good friends. So I brought Gina to Lavon's homecoming on that day. Lavon was a truly great, courageous, and egalitarian educator. She never took any stuff from anybody, and she expected every principal to do his or her job, every director to do his or her job. And if they did not do their job, they heard about it from her. So may she rest in peace everlasting. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, some housekeeping. I am the poet in residence for the Detroit Public Schools Community District. But what with all the activities that I'm doing now, I'm on a couple of radio shows, I'm writing columns, I'm on some civil rights boards, and I was just saying to myself, this is too much. So I'm just going to do my poet in residence as when I go around to the high schools and read my poetry. I'm not gonna teach every week. But then I got an email from Emmett Muckles, who was my student back in 1960 at Southeastern High School. And when Emmett heard that I had been invited to go to Douglas Academy to be the poet in residence there, but that I wanted to stay at Southeastern, where I've been for the past 4 years, and I had a great guy team teaching with me. That was Ben Piper. He said, no. He said, John, you need to go to Douglas. God wants you to go to Douglas, and you can do for those kids what you did for me 60 years ago. And that email touched me so much that I changed my mind, and I have decided to go to Douglas. I'm going to be team teaching there with Curia Gore, whom I've known for a long, long time, married to Tim Gore, who was with me at Finney High School. So I will be going to Douglas. And I'm also going to sponsor and coordinate a poetry contest for 11th graders. I think I'm just going to restrict it to 11th graders. And we're going to secure funding for prizes. Sunanda and I are going to be working on that.
I'm very excited about your poetry contest, John. Very excited.
I'm excited about it too. I'm even going to...
I'm dying to say everything, but I can't.
Right. Well...
Gonna wait for the views to hear from you. I love your ideas.
Well, I'm going to say this about it. The designated poem topics will be progressive, e.g., fighting against global warming and racism and classism and war, and against planet-wide societal divisiveness. In a world characterized more than ever I'm saying this again, by an unequal distribution of capacities for mobility, and in which the only chance of survival for many is to move and keep moving. The borders controversy, is the brutality of borders themselves, is now a fundamental given of our time. War has become both remedy and poison, our platonic pharmacon. This frightening transformation has unleashed barbaric passions that increasingly push human society away from democratic egalitarianism, as it did during colonization in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries.
In fact, this redefines scientific racism, what you just said. I mean, it started with scientific racism, and here we come back to it with these policies that block out whole populations and dynasties of histories of humans.
I think
Absolutely,
maybe more
absolutely
pseudo-scientific racism.
And yes,
Well, scientific is always pseudo.
Yeah, well,
and,
you know.
and
Because the progressives were actually scientific racists. In the times of the 1920s, they were considered progressives. They were part of the eugenics movement. And so the whole idea was to have a clean DNA.
And that leads us into our concept of humanism. You know, Humans United
crazy.
Movement, our Humans United Movement, advancing nations and society. And maybe if we have time, we've got to interview this guy here who's running for
Has a
president.
lot to say.
Yeah, he's got a lot
Mr.
to say. We're
Buddha.
Tree Buddha. We're going to be interviewing Tree Buddha.
You'll be seeing a lot more of them too.
Definitely anti-eugenics.
But
Yes.
but you know,
Yes.
we've been transforming into oligarchic fiefdoms of enmity and hatred, and our Detroit Public Schools
fetish.
Community District students, have to become vigilantly and defensively cognizant of this development. Fascists like Donald Trump love walls and borders. Whether the walls and borders be geographical, hierarchical, racial, or just plain psychological. We must heed well the late great poet Robert Frost. Quote, "Something there is that doesn't love a wall." Okay, some more announcements that I promised I would make. Nicole Small.
We interviewed her last week.
Yeah, we had her on the show. Who did we have her with? We had,
Police Commissioner William Davis.
Oh yeah, Bill Davis.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Extraordinary guy.
No, wait a minute. She came, Bill Davis came on with Tawana
No, he came on
Simpson.
with Tawana.
And we had Lamont Satchel.
She came. That's right.
Yeah, it was Lamont Satchel.
Yeah, that was another
Yeah, the
crazy
attorney
conversation
for, Lamont Satchel.
for Proposal P.
Yeah, for Proposal P, which went down, and it shouldn't have gone down. You know, all of the...
But it's not
Or-
over. They're proposing that Proposal P be a model to smaller minority cities
Good.
for their constitutions.
Yeah, well, we need
What
it
Detroit doesn't do, everybody else adopts.
We need it in
like
a
our
big,
water plant.
Right, we need it in a big minority city called
They'll
Detroit,
come back
Michigan.
to us, just like our DJs.
Anyway, Nicole Small, she's running for the Detroit City Council at large, and she is having a fundraiser hosted by Lori Hill Sanders at the Detroit Golf Club at 17911 Hamilton Road. At 17911 Hamilton Road, Detroit 48203, on Friday, September the 24th. On Friday, September the 24th, at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon until 7:30 p.m. And the tickets are, they call the tickets for a birdie ticket are $100. Tickets for a bogey ticket are $150. And tickets for an eagle ticket are $200. So I think they've kind of priced us out of going
What's the
there.
ticket for a ticket?
Right.
Now, she also has, I think, a $100 I think Friday at the Yacht Club at 10 a.m. Detroit Yacht Club,
Oh,
where you're a
okay.
member of too.
Yeah, right.
She has 2 fundraisers going.
Okay, well that's good. Also at this one at the Detroit Golf Club,
Yeah.
there's going to be an open bar with a 2-drink minimum. So I promised Stephanie Rivers that I would make that announcement. Okay, here's another announcement. Tonight, this very night, September the 16th, at the Horatio Williams Building at 1010 Antietam. Tonight, September 16th, at the Horatio Williams Building at 1010 Antietam at Rivard, mayoral candidate Anthony Adams will be present, and Mayor Mike Duggan has been invited. Don't hold your breath to see him there, though. To debate the mayoral issues. Also, city clerk candidate, excuse me, city clerk candidate Denzel McCampbell, whom I'm supporting, by the way, will be present.
And Winfried has been invited.
And
she hasn't
city
responded.
clerk Janice Winfrey has been invited. Don't hold your breath to see her there.
Or to get a vote in.
But he's going to present his platform. Denzel McCampbell will present his platform. Also, there to present their platforms for city council will be Mary Sheffield, and I live in her district. She's a good lady, by the way. Will be Mary Sheffield, Regina Ross, Angela Callaway, Gabriela Santiago Romero, M.L. Elric, whom I also know, used to write for the Free Press. Maybe he still does, I'm not sure. I think it was the Free Press. Fred Durhall, been a politician forever. Letitia Johnson, whom I support. I think she's in District 4. I support Letitia Johnson. I think she's running against Elric. Letitia Johnson, I support Letitia. In fact, she used to work the front desk at the River House where I live many years ago. And write-in candidates. We got a couple write-in candidates who are going to be there. Adam Mundy and my friend W.F. Hodo. W.F. Hodo in District 3. And if anyone wants to get on W.F. Hodo's bandwagon, you can call him at 313-685-6777. That's W.F. Hodo. You know, he used to run something for me when I was doing a television show in Highland Park. Good man, Hodo. W.F. Hodo in District 3. 313-685-6777. Roy McAllister has been invited, and so has Scott Benson, who is one of the council who's currently under FBI investigation. I'd be very surprised if Scott Benson shows up. And you know, you want to talk about investigations. While you're at it, don't forget the DPS scandals. You know, when in 1999 our city's public schools under visionary superintendent Eddie Green were unjustly great superintendent, were unjustly taken over by the state. Our students' test scores were at the state midpoint and rising despite all the social problems we got. And now look at what we're dealing with. You know, here we are 2 decades later. Test scores are the worst in the country. The school district's $3.5 billion in debt. And frankly, I don't know what we're going to do about it.
And quite frankly, what the Lansing legislature did, I mean, people focus on Detroit, but the overall quality of education in Michigan has fallen substantially since these takeovers, not at Detroit, but other little schools. But that has also threatened suburban communities that think that they're isolated.
Yeah, well, that's all true, but Detroit is, I mean, the state needs to do a forensic audit. We
used to spend a lot of money, John. We spend the least amount of money of all states in the country now. That is what Lansing has done to everybody, not just Detroit. All of our kids.
The state needs to do a forensic audit and find out where that $3.5 billion went, and then I think some people all the way up to Governor Schneider's.
They got amazing experts at Chapel Hill to do that forensic auditing.
Yeah.
That's what I would love to see happen.
It's a shame that the education, you said the scores have gone down?
Oh, beyond down. I mean, it's a prison sentence.
I could, you know, if we had time, but I want to get to our interview.
Oh,
just
can
think
I
that's one
can I
of the
read
most
this real
important
fast?
things
This
that they do.
No,
endorsement.
oh yeah, quick. We got a commercial, but
Just
I got
real quick, we're here with Tree Booth, and you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us. And thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
Thank you, Sunanda Corrado, for that commercial. And one last thing about this meeting, and remember this this debate, which is tonight, September the 16th, at the Horatio Williams Building at 1010 Antietam. That's a street, Antietam, at 1010 Antietam at Rivard, and that's going to be between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock p.m. tonight. There's going to be the mayoral debate with Anthony Adams debating himself, because I don't think that we're going to see eye nor hair of, and they're both my friends, by the way, full disclosure. Mayor Duggan is my friend. Anthony Adams is my friend. May the best man win. May the better man win. It's got to be better. Got to use the right grammar. There are only two. but I also want to talk about the police commissioner for just a minute. I want to mention the people I support. I support Lavish Williams in District 2. I support Stephen Boyle in District 3. It's got an email called Fuzzy Tech. I love that email. Stephen Boyle.
I know Steve. He's a good guy.
Good man. I support Stephen Boyle in District 3. I support Scotty Bowman in District 4. Scott Bowman. And we owe Scott an interview, Sunanda.
Yes, he came to the station when it was flooded out. We were supposed to interview him that day.
The power went out.
Oh, that's right.
And then Scotty and I headed over to the church over on
for the protest.
But we got to bring Scotty back on.
He's running for police commissioner, right?
In District 4, vote for Scott Bowman in District 4. And in District 5, Willie Burton's running unopposed, but I support Willie, of course. Well, we're going to have him on the show too.
Yes.
And in District 6, I support Landis Spencer, and in District 7, I support Ricardo Moore. So vote for those folks. Okay, we have in the station today on the John Telford Detroit Show, co-hosted by Dr. Sunanda Corrado, that PhD from Columbia University, a young man, at least to me he's young, because I'm 85
Just
years old. Tree Buddha. And this guy's running for president. And he's got some key points for his platform. One of them is to make America constitutional again. Constitutional. You ever hear of our Constitution? Trump tried his best to trash it, still is trying. Decriminalize nature from a federal standpoint. The federal government. Decriminalize nature, and he's going to be talking about that. Respect and enforce everyone's rights. Create world peace, and that'll be a trick. I don't think, in all of the history of Homo sapiens there's ever been much peace. But plant billions of trees naturally. I mean, his name is Tree. He wants to plant billions of trees. And 2-year college subsidy for all high school graduates. I'll support that, believe me. Colonize Mars. We may have to if we keep what we're doing to this planet at the rate we're going.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So I want you to watch.
I'd rather just go straight to heaven.
I want you to watch Trey Buddha's campaign. Well, he can talk about that.
Yeah.
He'll talk about that. Okay. Tree Buddha. I don't know why I keep saying Trey.
That's okay.
So you're a presidential candidate, but you're also a children's author.
Yes.
That's what and I want to talk about that, about your book. Tree Buddha has written a book called
Trees, Please.
Trees, Please. Now, the title is an intriguing title. Trees, Please.
It's almost like Oliver Twist.
Should that be trees, please, meaning give me trees? Or should that be trees, please? Trees please us.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
I cannot.
I think it's all the above.
All of the above.
Absolutely.
Okay. So in writing this book, Tree.
Yeah.
Tell us Who inspired you the most?
Well, I was actually inspired by Mr. Elon Musk. I've been working on this project for some years because I'm from Portland, Oregon. We're big on the environment over there, and I know climate change has been something we've been worried about for a long time. But Mr. Musk published a statement saying he was going to put up a $200 million award fund through SpaceX for whoever could solve climate change.
Yeah.
And I've done that. The simple solution is in this book, Trees Please, by Dr. Moose. That's the pseudonym I used. It's
Okay.
DOCTOR, all spelled out. Not Dr. Seuss, Dr. Moose.
How do you spell moose?
Moose.
Okay, Dr. Moose.
Dr. Moose.
Okay.
It's on Amazon.
Okay, so why did you get inspired so by Elon Musk? Why Elon Musk?
I've looked up to the guy for a long time. I wanted to start an electric car company when I was younger, and he started Tesla that same year, and just kind of followed him for a long time. I really admire what he's done with SpaceX and trying to make human life multiplanetary. Absolutely support that. We have no idea, when a potential cataclysmic event might happen to Earth. Comet from out of the blue, a direction that we're not observing, could be really tragic.
So then how much effort should we put into this Earth that might be destroyed versus into space?
Well, I think we need to improve the environment that we have and expand it and expand our real estate to wherever we can colonize. There's more research that needs to be done. There's scientific advancements that need to be made to make Mars habitable. I think we need to send some, again, back to Elon Musk. He had a great idea, send some little life pods out there and start, greening that Martian environment. I think if we, this is kind of far-fetched, but I think the sciences can make it happen. We could send some mirrors on satellites out into space and reflect some additional sunlight toward Mars. We could probably warm it up with just additional sunlight reflected at that planet.
But aren't you worried with all of this emphasis on these new sciences and this new potential that people might look away from issues of social justice on Earth, especially financially?
I mean, it's possible. I think social justice here is of the utmost importance. I definitely support everyone's rights, your constitutional rights, the Bill of Rights. We've got a long list of human rights in the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, written by Eleanor Roosevelt, which the United States and all the United Nations agreed to.
Great lady, the power behind Franklin. Eleanor Roosevelt.
Wonderful woman.
I remember Eleanor Roosevelt well.
Yeah.
I was born in January of 1936.
Okay.
And it was Roosevelt who pulled us out of the Depression.
With imperialism.
Well,
I gotta be the Brown professor, man.
Yeah,
With the Philippines and all that.
Well,
Golden era for some.
Well, at least he was preferable to, Hirohito and Hitler, who we had to contend with.
Well, we bombed Hirohito after he was done.
Yeah.
Not a fan of Hitler. I'll tell you that.
Well, no. We had him in the White House.
But Ford
for
was.
4 years.
Ford was a fan of Hitler.
Trump.
He actually helped provide costs for Hitler's Mein Kampf. He helped with the production of Mein Kampf. His engineers actually helped design some of the gas chambers.
Really?
Yeah.
They say that Donald Trump read Mein Kampf. But it's kind of hard for me to believe he reads anything, They say that...
he went to go business school.
He probably has someone else read it for him and then fires him when they say a word he doesn't understand.
Anyway, what else do you hope to achieve in writing Trees Please?
This is an amazing book, by the way. It's an amazing book.
You mind if I share a little excerpt?
Absolutely.
Oh, please.
Sure.
There's just so much to it. There's
Yeah.
so much to this book. When we talked, when we first met, I couldn't stop talking to you about it.
Yeah, I mean, my goal is to promote the truth about the climate situation. There's been a lie promoted for a long time that carbon emissions are warming the atmosphere, and I proved it actually has zero to do with that. The fact is the sun is a giant thermonuclear reaction in the sky. I'm deviating, this is not in the children's version of the book. But when the sun comes up in the morning, things start to get warmer. When it goes down at night, it starts to get cooler. And our inanimate human surfaces, like roofs, rooftops, and roadways, the sides of buildings, these non-living surfaces get bombarded by that solar light coming down at the speed of light, and they just heat up and then transfer that heat to the air through convection, the transfer of heat from a surface to a fluid medium as the air blows over it. And that's what's warming the environment. I proved that with a laser thermometer. You can take a surface temp of the leaves of trees and find that they're always lower than the ambient air temperature, and do this at noon or thereabouts. And the surface temps of the roads and roofs are significantly warmer by as much as 50 degrees sometimes.
So this is kind of like a revolutionary revelation, right?
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Elementary and middle school teachers
It's a
who've
revelation.
been scripted on CO2 and CO2 footprints.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is the actual convected heat or heat that's translated into a different form of heat energy.
Right.
When it hits the pavement or the cement, it comes back up.
Yeah.
So instead of talking about footprint, you start talking about green architecture.
Yeah, exactly.
And living cities, so to speak.
Exactly. Instead of a carbon tax, we need a heat tax. You know, how much heat is your building releasing to the atmosphere each day? Here, let me segue here to this excerpt from the book.
Heat tax.
Good. Yeah, let's hear
That's
the excerpt
interesting
from
for
the book.
people with central heating.
This is page 5. It says, trees absorb and use sunlight to grow. Because the sunlight energy is used by the tree stays cool to the touch as long as it has enough water. Now, let me just talk about that for a sec.
Yeah.
The trees need adequate carbon dioxide, CO2, and adequate humidity or water in the root system in order to eat the sunlight, which is photosynthesis. So if we took the CO2 theory to the logical conclusion and removed all the CO2 from the atmosphere, we'd be starving the trees, and then they wouldn't, in the plants, and then they wouldn't produce oxygen, so they wouldn't be able to photosynthesize, and we'd be starving ourselves.
So I also saw a contradiction in the original theory as well. This is
Absolutely.
great for our young scientists of today, young kids coming up today.
Thank you. Let's see the next page here. Roofs, roads, deserts, and non-living surfaces reflect some sunlight and absorb the rest. This absorbed energy turns into heat. These surfaces get hot in the sunlight. That heat radiates back into the environment, heating up the air and everything else.
Now, I don't know if Roger could, and I don't know if we can back the computer up, but you've put a lot of work into this book. Number one, no trees were used, right?
No trees were
But
used.
number two,
ebook.
the artist you work with is completely incredible, because the text is one thing,
Yeah.
and then when you see the picture, it's a whole other story that you could collaborate with. It is such a significant teaching tool.
Thank you.
I mean, the artist really is on level with you in terms of his or her own kind of. Is there any way we could see these pages?
Is there? Oh yeah. You want to turn this to the camera? Yeah. I'd like to give credit to Shen Li. He's the illustrator.
Incredible artist.
Taiwanese Canadian computer illustrator. Let's see.
I don't know if you could,
I don't
or
think
maybe
it-
turn it this way.
Is it right there? Okay.
Yeah, would we be able to see? No,
No, it's a little too much
darn
glare.
it. We're gonna have to give a. Can we give a web link so people can look you up as we talk?
Yeah. This ebook is on
Beautiful book.
Amazon
Amazon. okay.
under Trees Please. I just finished the Chinese English translation, and that's live. Working on Spanish next. And it's $9.99 in English, but the Chinese English translation, which has all the English text, is only $4.99, so half off.
That's hilarious.
So I'm trying to get the Chinese.
These are great
a deal.
bilingual books too. Like if you elementary school, you're teaching Spanish or French, you can use this book for that too.
Absolutely.
Gosh darn it. 1 second, Mr. Buddha. So you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us and other various broadcasts that we have here. And thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And here we have in our studio speaking with us Mr. Tributta, running for president in 2024
Thank you.
and just launching his new children's environmental book called Trees Please, which I think is an amazing piece of literature.
And it
Thank
is a timely book for one very important reason. 2 words: global warming.
Yeah.
I mean, we are living in an environmental disaster. I mean, it is not impending. It is already here. And just let me list a couple of things that we're dealing with. In addition, of course, to the rising temperatures. increasing carbon dioxide levels. That's what you've been talking about.
Yep.
Lack of clean drinking water. We're going to be fighting wars over that if we don't look out. Extinction of endangered species. That's a given.
All those are linked to
happening every
trees.
day.
Droughts.
Yeah.
Droughts. And floods.
All
Look
linked to
what-
trees again.
Look what's happening in the basements of Detroit right now. It's just, here at home.
Oh,
So,
that's an insurance scam. What's happening here?
rising sea levels. There are going to be
Yeah.
entire countries disappear.
Which is why
Under
we
the
really
water.
got to question what borders and boundaries really mean to human beings.
And the wildfires. I mean, California's on fire.
But you,
Oregon's on fire.
but you know what? Again, because of insurance,
Your
they kept
state,
putting out wildfires, so now they all came together like a big old tinderbox and just blew up at the same time. But everybody knows if you let wildfires take place, the land comes back stronger. But you can't burn down houses. It's insurance problems.
And the agricultural production is going down right now. It's happening now. Oh God! And the ice caps the size of the United States. Look at the sky. Look at what's happening right now. All that moisture is in the air because it has nowhere else to go. So that's being caused by and
That convection heat that you were talking about.
Yeah.
melting ice caps, plummeting agricultural production. I talked about that. Poor air quality, and damage to our infrastructure.
Yeah.
Let us hope and pray that President Biden will heed this crisis. And I mean, Trump had 4 years to do something about it, and so did previous presidents, and they have not.
Now we're just moving missiles around to Asia. That's all we're doing with this administration.
We had better cooperate with China. Forget about talking about war with China. I mean, war
I know,
is
it's ridiculous. I think we actually are cooperative with China.
We need China as an ally. They're
You bet we do.
very powerful.
Yeah. Well, we need China. We need Russia. We need everybody. I mean,
Absolutely. That's how we're going to have world peace, is getting everyone to work toward a common goal, which is why I think we need to have the goal of moving to space. It's something that can unite.
Well, I hope we don't have to move to space, but we may have to.
Well, we can start moving some bases up to space, so we've...
Well, as an anthropologist, I'm always intrigued by our obsession with immortality when we know everything will die eventually.
Sooner or later. But, we could preserve human life on this planet for a few million more years if we would just have some sense.
Yeah.
But you've got 137...
We've only been around 2 million years, and we're talking about quite a long evolutionary history on this earth. This is not our final form, guys.
Right.
This is not our final form.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree, but it is our current form.
Yeah.
And let's try to preserve it for as long as we
Well,
can.
what if a smarter form comes out and I still want to be around? Like, apes.
Well, it may have to invade, because I don't know if we've got it on this planet. I've always been somewhat pessimistic about Homo sapiens and our ability not to fight each other, not to kill each other. I mean, we all need to live on this planet together, and the planet is dying because of what Homo sapiens has done to it.
Well, it's kind of like
Ever since
fungus
the
on
industrial-
yogurt or mold on yogurt. I mean, we know that we're destructive, but that doesn't stop us from being compelled to being destructive, right?
It's a pessimistic statement to make, me being a Homo sapiens.
Saying that we're not that significant in our destruction.
Well, I perceive us to be a parasite on the face of this planet. And that is a very pessimistic statement. But, I mean, we've demonstrated that time and again. And now, look, you've got the
Feminists made that statement with the embryo.
Well,
Right.
all right.
Well,
I heard a radio
parasite.
show about that the other day.
I'm having fun. I'm seriously just having fun. I'm sorry for joking around. But back to your story. So you go into architecture, you go into buildings. So I'm wondering, like, how much of this comes from your influence in Oregon?
Sure.
Are the buildings really green? Or is it just something that we all need to do together?
Yeah, if you do a Google search for living walls, there's lots of really good examples around the world.
Living walls.
Living walls.
Versus boundary walls. I love this.
Yeah, living walls are great. And just imagine on the side of your building or along the side of the highways, a giant trellis if there's not trees already, and you can put up hanging planters with flowering vines, and soaker hose or little irrigation things at the top, so everything stays hydrated, and then it creates more habitat and a beautiful visibility screen, so you don't have to see the cars driving past or whatever.
Yeah.
Little animal bridges, so that people and animals can cross the highways safely. Very beautiful. I'd like to read this one last little bit.
Before you do that, I just want to make a statement about Oregon.
Sure, please.
You came up in Oregon.
Yeah.
But look what happened in the Olympic trials. They actually had to postpone it because the temperature went. How high was it?
Oh,
I'm a
gosh.
former. I was an
World
international
athlete.
runner. I'm very interested in the sport of track and field.
Yeah.
And Oregon has been a hotbed of track and field with ever since Steve Prefontaine, Otis Davis, who else? Dyro Burleson.
Yeah.
Was it your miler? In fact, Dyro Burleson and I and Hayes Jones, who was an Olympic hurdler, my friend, we formed a group called ITAA, International Track Athletes of America, to try to get them to put some money aside for us for when we didn't run anymore. But Oregon is a hotbed of runners. It's a healthy state. Look at what is happening to California and Oregon and Washington State now.
So sad.
It's very, very frightening, and yet you've got these 137 Congress people and a bunch of people in state government who are Trumpian. I mean, they're Trumpists. Okay, I know I'm digressing. So you were going to read another portion of your book.
Sure.
Trees, Please. Trees, Please.
Trees, Please by Dr. Moose on Amazon. English for $9.99, or in Chinese and English translation for $4.99 on special. And
it's
just
a beautiful book.
Thank
It
you.
is visually beautiful.
Thank you so much. And about what you were just saying, John, my mother lives in Portland, Oregon still. She was saying earlier this year it got over 115 degrees, which is what I believe broke all-time record.
Yes.
It's just tragic because I think it's totally preventable. This is the solutions page in the children's book. It says, plant more trees, living walls, and living roofs to help keep your neighborhood and the atmosphere cooler. They're like natural air conditioners. Make sure to water your trees and garden during the hot days at least. And this is one of the things I promote is watering during the day. There had been some type of advertising propaganda campaign in the past saying don't water during the day because the water, you're going to waste water, it's going to evaporate. But it's actually a really good thing if that water evaporates. There's a couple reasons. Because evaporation is a cooling process. We all learned that in simple science in elementary school, most likely. And so when you water during the day and it evaporates, it creates a little bit of a breeze as the water liquid turns into water vapor, creates a pressure differential, and it just cools off the area a little bit with that evaporation. If everyone in America was watering their yard during the day, there'd be a lot more evaporation, which would contribute to extra cloud cover. And that cloud cover, if you look at it from a satellite picture, go ahead and Google satellite images of clouds. They look very bright from the top, and that's because of the scientific principle of refraction. The light's hitting the water molecule and spinning in all directions, and half of that goes back up and half of it goes down. So if you get a thick cloud, the bottom of it looks very dark from our perspective on the ground because most of that light has gone back into space, and therefore it's a lot cooler on a cloudy day.
If we listened to the scientists, we'd be way, way ahead of the game. But unfortunately, some of our, quote, leaders don't. You talk like a scientist. What's your educational background?
I was raised on a diet of science and chess and
Okay.
music, nerd at heart. I went to Portland Public Schools, graduated high school almost illiterate, and then went to some private schooling where I learned how to study and use the dictionary, and progressed from there. Done lots of independent research.
So many ways you're self-taught. What was it about the schools that were so unsatisfying for somebody so curious?
When I was growing up, I just
What a failure of the system.
Yeah, the
I hate to say it, but you're right.
the dictionary just wasn't influenced
before we
very much or used.
We're coming back to that question.
Sure.
And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And we're here talking to Tree Buddha, the author of Trees Please and future presidential candidate for 2024 elections. Now I would like to go back to what he was talking about, Tree.
Let's.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
Oh,
It's a
shoot.
very cool station, by the way.
Well, there's one thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
If you can't remember what you were asking him,
He caught both of us.
I do want to have
He
time.
caught both of us.
I do want to have time for you to tell us about your platform.
Oh, sure.
Running for president.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah, please.
If you're elected, what are the first 3 actions you would take?
I believe the first, I'd sign an executive order to pardon everyone that's currently incarcerated for simple possession of natural substances.
Hear,
I think
hear.
it's a huge injustice that's really just based on racism originally, to criminalize
Crime bill.
any part of nature. And
Totally agree with that.
yeah, I'd probably sign an executive order saying that nature is no longer federally illegal, and let the states catch up and press Congress to catch up to that.
Talk about federal illegality. I mean, in what sense is nature illegal?
There is the schedule of drugs in America, and they include some natural substances on that list,
Okay.
such as
I had trouble understanding
cannabis.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think there's some other things, poppy, natural poppy sap
How
that they
can
make
plants
opium from.
possibly be illegal? It's always fascinated me.
Right, yeah. I'm a minister as well.
Poison
so-
ivy ought to be
Are you a
illegal.
minister?
Yeah, so I believe, that nature is a gift from God and should not be a crime, and that violates separation of church and the state to criminalize any part of nature.
Amen.
Yeah,
So you have a strong environmentalist platform. You have a strong faith in God,
yeah.
and you're conservative.
Well, I believe in conserving the natural environment,
Go on.
for sure. I think the
How do
third...
you define it? Because I see you kind of as a new generation that don't go by these polarities that are in mainstream media about politics. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're a very different kind of cat.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I consider myself an all-faith minister, kind of similar to like Unitarian Universalist. I respect all cultures, all beliefs, so long as those beliefs aren't infringing on other people's rights to believe and practice peacefully. But just to answer your question, John, I think the third action I'd take is sign an executive order to restart the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps.
Absolutely.
To start getting people
we
back
won't
to
call
work.
it the CCC. We'll call it the civilian something else.
We call the Civilian Environmentalist Corps.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we got to get a C in there somehow. But that's what we need, though.
Yeah.
And
get people back to
you-
work planting trees.
I don't know. You're
helping
not
the
a big
environment.
fan of Roosevelt's, but that was one of his
No.
babies.
Yeah.
That was one of his babies, and
Exactly.
we need it again.
Well, the
That's how we got
conservation
up.
of nature, aside from Native Americans too, because remember they weren't allowed to fish and stuff anymore. That's how they protected the earth.
Yeah. And
None of us, right?
where's that list that you had, John, of the different environmental?
Here it is.
No,
This-
your handwritten note you were reading earlier.
Well, this note.
Is that the one that has all? No.
No, what are you looking for?
You're talking about the trees and the air.
Oh, I think this is it.
Yeah, let me see
I got
that
so
one
many papers. I need to do this because my memory's bad, and I forget if I don't have notes. I can't remember.
Yeah, when I was listening to you read this list, so many of these are related to trees. The fact that we've had so much deforestation. For the CO2 theory of climate change, they say since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, there's been a steady increase of CO2, blah, blah, blah. In that same time period, there's been a steady decrease of our natural cooling infrastructure, the trees and the green spaces, to make way for a steady increase of basically concrete jungles, which are essentially
Right.
heat sinks.
That's right.
For the sunlight.
That's right.
And the concrete jungles contribute to the drought because they don't evaporate very much water. Nothing soaks in. That rain that does fall goes into a drain, and so then it's not available for surface evaporation.
Yeah.
So there's then less cloud cover, and then therefore less rain to the inland areas that need it.
And then that runoff also collects all the pesticides and stuff that are used to maintain these cemented landscapes.
Right. Yeah. And without trees, we have poor air quality, and the climate warming up, melting ice caps, and with the drought, it contributes to wildfires. All this goes back to trees, pretty much.
And we were kind of talking about your next book, because I was saying, there's a lot of plants in the ocean that people don't talk about, that there are a lot more plants than trees in that sense, and they both kind of do the same thing. And so you said that you were thinking about another theme for your second book that kind of overlapped with the first.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do a book on the water cycle next. Just a children's book, trying to figure out how to make it fun, and, pictures of whales and seaweed.
Because, the reason I was being rough about all the space voicing, because obviously I'm an old lady, is that we don't spend 1/10 of the budget that we do on space on our seas.
Yeah.
And I find that very interesting.
It all comes down.
I agree with both. Look at everything.
It all comes down
Everything's important. You gotta look at the whole picture.
If we're going to survive as a species, we have to pay more attention to justice. Because right now we've got people in power, not just in this country, but throughout the world, who aren't just men. They aren't just. It brings to mind, and I like to quote Reinhold Niebuhr.
I love Reinhold Niebuhr.
Well, let me tell you something
Moral
about...
man in moral society.
I like to quote him. At a time like this, we need to...
Need to bring him back.
Yeah, well, we need to reincarnate Reinhold Niebuhr if we could. But
Beautiful brain.
I got to tell you something about him. Reinhold Niebuhr confirmed my mother.
You told me.
At
How many times am I surprised again and again?
He confirmed my mother at Bethel Evangelical and Reformed Lutheran Church on Grand River.
That's amazing.
Right, actually on West Grand Boulevard, near Grand River, right next to the old Northwestern High School. In the year 1920, he confirmed her. And then, 30 years later, he confirmed me. That was an interesting church, by the way. I mean, not only was I confirmed there and a member, and since I grew up on 16th Street, which wasn't far away from the church, I was in a Boy Scout troop in that church, and we weren't a very good Boy Scout troop. We were, we used to go out in the alley and fight. So they got an old ring and put it in the basement of that church and started a boxing club, and that's a whole different other story. But Reinhold Niebuhr said this many years ago. He became an internationally known theologian. But at this time, he was just a young man with a church on West Grand Boulevard, and he confirmed my mother. He said, "Man's capacity for justice makes democracy possible, but man's capacity for injustice makes democracy necessary."
Yeah.
And right now, we have a Republican Party in this country that is no longer a Republican Party. It's a Retrumplican Party made up of 137 Congress people who have become fascists and who have followed the lead of the chief fascist in this country, that buffoonish... Excuse me. Sometimes, I have to do a poem about him. Uncivil warfare. I read this poem again and again. I read it on WCHB too. It was written. I wrote it on January the 6th. That infamous day in our history. On this evil and fatal occasion of the Capitol building invasion, the traitor Trump's collusion demands his execution. Okay, we just got a knock on the door, so we are out of time. Sunanda, you got to do the lead out.
Can I say one last thing really fast? I just want to encourage everyone to check out my Tree Buddha channel on YouTube. You can find that by searching for the email address treebuddha@gmail.com. That's spelled TreeBuddah. It's not the traditional HA, it's AH, because this is America and we have freedoms and liberties to write our names how we want to. treebuddha@gmail.com. Search on YouTube. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chibuta, and I can't wait to vote for the 2024 elections. I finally get to have a real opinion, eh?
Woo! Yeah.
And you've been listening to the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford and your co-host, Dr. Sunanda Samadar Corrado on Wjzz Cool TV on Thursdays from 10 to 11 in the morning, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It was the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer who said Dr. John Telford has a warrior's heart and a poet's soul. Listen also to Dr. Telford on WCHB AM 1340 Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. And please tune in again next week, Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. And thank you for listening. WJZZ, the coolest station in the world.